Welcome to Yes, Genius, a podcast from Epic Marketing that celebrates the power of affirmative thinking. In each episode, we explore the power of saying yes to unexpected opportunities, career changes, even the unknown, and the powerful results. This season, we welcome our speakers and panelists from Social Media Day Delaware. We hope you enjoy their yes stories and some digital marketing insights.
Hello and welcome. I'm your host for this episode, Dara McBride. Joining me is Jane Clark. With more than 15 years of experience and over a dozen first place awards, Jane is a go-to brand strategist who helps her clients stand apart. She has worked with Fortune 300 companies, celebrities, and over 400 small businesses and nonprofits. Jane has presented for organizations like Temple University, the Women of Hospitality Conference, and SCORE Delaware. She has also taught web design as an adjunct professor at Cecil College and currently serves on the boards of End Child Marriages and the Delaware Press Association. Welcome, Jane.
Hello. I think mostly people keep bringing me back because I'm funny. I should probably add that to my bio. Hysterical.
Hysterical. Well, we have interviewed a professional comedian on this podcast before. So if you want to go toe to toe, we will have room for jokes later on. I can ask you
Is there like a
your
joke
go-to
school? There
Well,
is.
there's clown school.
Clown school. Are you
Clown
kidding with?
school.
Is that real?
Yes, I think
Amazing.
the well-known ancient art of clowning. We must respect it as an art. Yeah.
I guess I do.
But we don't need to clown around too much because you are. Though that sounded really. That was kind of clever, but also a little forced.
I love it.
Keep the jokes coming. But you are an incredible business owner. You have done so much with your career. You're one of those people where I feel like I know you, even though I don't know you, because your name is constantly being mentioned in conversation. And I know you're just kind of a businesswoman about town. So you own and operate a creative agency called Brand Swan, formerly Deketica, which is the
Nailed
one I
it.
thought I was going to mess up, not Brand Swan. So we know you said yes to launching your own business, but then this go-to can-do attitude kind of plays in, day-to-day operations, how you land clients. So tell us, how did the power of yes help you land a major client?
Well, all right. Buckle in, guys. It's quite the story. I remember getting a call from someone, and she said she needed a graphic designer for a project. So I'm like, well, I happen to be one. And at that point, I believe I had at least some of my team members with me, and I remember them helping me with the work. But ultimately, she brought me on as her creative director. And I think that's really the moment I became like a true creative director. And power of suggestion, I'm going to talk about that. So, first of all, and if I can go back and I would have negotiated this, but I have an NDA, so I can't tell you who the client is. But what I can say is that they are a Fortune 300 company in the finance sector. So I remember Ashley knocked on the door. I opened it and we just clicked right away. I just knew we were going to land a bunch of clients together. She's minority owned, I'm minority owned. And I'm like, we're going to get so many projects. So I was already jazzed like the moment I met her. And we totally clicked, even though she's allergic to cats. She just never met at my house again. But yeah, she did eventually get used to all the animals that we have here. But yeah, so she brought me on to design this whole campaign without getting too specific. We busted our butts. I did all this work designing this campaign, actually almost like redesigning a campaign, right? And I can't say too much about it, but I can say it involved Apple and Google Pay during that time. So 2 days before we leave to pitch the client, which by the way, I normally don't do because this was in Texas and I'm in Delaware for those listening. And and I don't even like planes, I have a lot of anxiety. And so the entire time I'm on this plane, like I'm having panic attacks. I'm on 4 planes in 2 days. And I'm just thinking, why couldn't we get like one that goes all the way to the end? So that the travel part was what was the holdup for me, but somehow I pushed through it. Um, and we got there, and there was just so much that I learned from that opportunity. And because she believed in me, I was like, I got this. It's going to be great. So I get these ideas. I'm like, let's make sure we have a leave behind piece when we get there. And, we get it printed at a printer right by the client that we can pick up after we get off the airport. So we're really planning this down to like just the word. And I remember going to she rented a beautiful B&B. It was hot as hell. Can I say that on podcast? So hot. And I do remember we ate a lot of sushi, and that was one thing I loved about her. Is I'm like, listen, spend as much money as you want on as much sushi as you can eat, and we did, and it was just fabulous. And it's just like this weird. I, I don't even want to say girl power, but it just felt like we were in this thing together. And by the way, this entire time, I think this is a formality. I thought she had the client in the bag and we're just going to pitch it because, policy and expectations of companies, right? So for me, the most challenging part was the actually getting there. So when we get there, well, actually, before we get there, there is a beautiful grocery store, and Dogfish Head is just there. You just buy beer in the grocery store. That blew my mind. In Delaware, you have to go to like a separate place to get your liquor, and so I'm like, wow, I'm in like a whole new world. And so I get one later to celebrate. And that's another story, but I'll tack on at the end. And then they let us into the conference room, and we're prepping for it, and they're like, help yourself in the mini fridge. And I'm like, my God, I open it up, and it's just glorious. And the one thing that I saw that just it was Diet Dr. Pepper. And so I'm like, I'm going to have this. I can't believe it. And I almost opened it. And I realized if I open this, I'm going to be burping throughout my whole presentation. So I just saved that for later too. So I have like this bag of just shit I'm saving for later, a can of Dogfish Head beer, Diet Dr. Pepper, and of course, the presentation notes. So I even remember what I wore to that event. I was wearing a black jumper that I still own to this day and a white shirt with like canaries on it. It was well thought out. I'm telling you. I remember exactly what I was wearing. Um, and when I stood up and I did my design and I did the pitch, um, having no idea this wasn't a formality, the VP at the end was like, "Well, what do you need from me?" And we were like, "Say yes." And he's like, "Yes." And so he signed off on it, and we walked out of there. And that's when I found out that she didn't get the job. She completely paid for this out of her own pocket. She hired me without knowing that she was going to get this client. And I had no idea.
Oh, wow. So she took a risk on you and your partnership and
Yep,
was just waiting for it to pay off.
exactly. And the fact that she believed in me and that she had committed to this partnership was just absolutely mind blowing to me. And until this day, I value it forever.
Mm.
Um, and then on the way back, I remember being in the order or the Uber and drinking a can of beer, which may or may not have been legal. I don't know. But I was just like, you saw them in the grocery store, surely you could be in the back seat. But that was amazing, just going to the airport and knowing that we landed this huge client. But yeah, it was all her. And when I knew that, I had this horrible, like, terrifying fear of success.
That's another
Like,
thing, isn't it?
yeah, I'm like, what if they become a whale client and then they decide not to use this anymore and then we go out of business? Like things like that is the kind of stuff I think about.
What did it mean for someone to put that kind of faith in you?
It absolutely just showed me I could do it, that I could have faith in myself as well, and meeting a bunch of people who also didn't know what they were doing but still doing it. To me, it's just like the best quality of a human being, the resourcefulness that you can have. And just, we always say, what's the worst thing that could happen? They say no, right?
Mhm.
But I think the worst thing that can happen is that we somehow lose respect for ourselves and we beat ourselves up because it wasn't enough. And there's lots and lots and lots of clients I didn't get. In fact, I even got clients that ended up not even doing the project at all. And so it's like a win, but you still lose somehow. So what this was just like that one thing that made it all worth it. Like, look how far you can go. And it showed me that I really, really loved a partnership as well. So I said yes to a lot of things. I said yes to stretching and growing my anxiety on the plane. I said yes to, having the confidence to pitch a vice president of a Fortune 300 company. And at the end, she was like the MVP. And then she's talking football with him, which, by the way, I know a little bit about the Eagles, but that's it. And it was just like the perfect ending, the icing on the cake, that she could connect with him in that way. And so, yeah, it's amazing like how you connect with people that you aren't even in proximity with. Um,
Yeah.
and
How did you connect with her originally?
she just contacted me. I have really great SEO. And so she typed in probably, creative agency. And here I am. I think, women really like to partner with other women because it just feels good, like it feels good. It feels like you're entering an equitable relationship, I think.
Mhm. If you could go back knowing, how things turned out and then it wasn't just, already in the bag, would you have changed anything about your presentation or how you approached it?
Oh God. I mean, knowing where I am now, I'm like, my God, I could have done so much more. But again, yeah, I would have prepared the presentation more. I would have prepared the follow-up. I would have prepared a lot of things. And I think ultimately I would feel more confident, absolutely, going back. Um, for me, I think it was a fun experience. And again, we already had it, so it's real low pressure. But I think that authenticity is really what connected with the client,
Mm.
because we were chill, we had nothing to prove. And so I think that energy, he can kind of sense it. But yeah, we faked it till we made it. Absolutely. And it's still one of the coolest things I think I've ever done, for
That's
sure.
so exciting. So tell me about, if I were a client coming through your doors, like what is it like to work with Jane Clark and Brand Swan?
Yeah, yeah. This is a great question and a really timely. I'm doing a presentation, like my topic this year is about uncovering your competitive edge. And so being able to walk someone through the story behind their brand, I think is really critical and helps connect some dots. But also it's the difference between, okay, this design's okay, and wow, this is it. And so I always want to get to, wow, this is it. And the one thing I'm trying to do right now is to gamify the process, because some clients can be frustrated with the back and forth. I think it's also based on generation and experience and, how we prefer to strategize and plan. And so I think honing that process and just making it way more fun, and, you can see where you're going. You can see, where you've been. And, even like I'm thinking like a game board, and they see themselves and it's like, well, you got to do this, back three spaces, like just fun stuff like that, to just make it more lighthearted. But I think it's fun. But when we start talking data and like who your competitors really are, it can feel like the thief of joy when you compare yourself to others, right? So again, it's just this
You
narrative
get
that we have to retrain ourselves, and how we think about that.
you get stuck in the licorice forest,
Oh, the licorice forest. I would just eat my
right?
way out, unless it's black licorice. Then probably not.
I think it is.
I don't know. Good and plenties were kind of cool. I'm showing my age a little bit here, but
I love that game board analogy because I think it is a fun process to get to understand your brand or work with someone else, but it can be challenging and it can be disheartening when you have those setbacks. But ultimately, you still have the chance. You're still going to keep advancing through the project and reach to the finish line. So I
yeah.
love that you're using that. I know that you are someone who has collaborated with others. One of the creative outlet of yours is Dark Mode, which you co-host with Heather Cox of Heather Cox Codes. So you're talking about understanding your brand and your positioning. What have you learned from working with peers in the industry?
Wow. Um, when I first started my business, I did a cold email outreach to like every company that did graphic design in the area. But I actually have an associate's degree in photography, so I couldn't lean on my education. A lot of what I do, again, professional photography, but I busted out of college wanting to focus on web design, built that company, and then all the brand stuff happened on top of it. But I have met some really amazing people who have absolutely transformed my business. And my friendship with Heather is super special because I feel like I can tell her things. Here's my pricing. Here is how I do it, because ultimately we're all trying to carve out where we belong and we want to be different. And so long as that difference is super obvious, then we're not competitors in that way, you know? So it's really, so our dynamic, I can tell right away if it's a good client for Heather. Like, let's say someone's in the audience, they own a restaurant. I'm like, boom, Heather's got that question. And I don't think that mindset is very common. I think it's certain companies can be cutthroat with how they do it. You know, they don't want any competitors. They want to keep everything private. And I'm just like, more the merrier, you know, because the more we can elevate the industry. So, you know, if I raise my prices to match Heather's, now we're raising the industry, right? And I'm not undercutting her. So for me, the more you can talk to your competitors about what their favorite client is, and you know, it's just, I think it's a beautiful thing, but I do think that, and I still struggle with it for sure. You know, I get pangs and I'm like, oh, they're doing so awesome. How dare they? You know, like those are my thing. Man, they're killing it. Ugh. You know, it's still, even, I even talk shit politely, you know, to my competitors, but there's, and they're all amazing. And that's the hard part. You know, they're like, why you? I'm like, I don't know. No. But yeah, we want to make the process fun. And Jen Wells definitely taught me about systems. I partnered with her for Brand Swan. She works in the nonprofit sector now. She loves it. She didn't really like being a business owner, but we're still work besties, you know? And she taught me, I think, how to run a good team. She took the team I already had and she optimized everything. And she focused so much on like the customer, what are they saying about the work, where are they frustrated in the process, how do we fix it, and boom, and then she moves on, and it's just lovely. And I would also credit my husband. Very strange, I would credit my husband. We're very, very different people. He is introvert to the extreme, you know. We're just like, we like to hang out with each other and that's it. We're kind of weird in that way, but he's taught me a lot about patience, doing things right, thoughtfulness, mindfulness, you know, like, so he really helps ground me in being able to foster a place where people can feel safe and grow. So I really credit him with that too.
I've heard you talk about yourself as both like an introvert and an extrovert. How do you balance those sides of yourself?
Um, it's a button, it's a switch I can turn on and off so long as my cup is full. It is kind of hard to put me in a place because when I connect with someone here in my heart, um, it just becomes a different relationship. Um, I would say some of it, I'm going to be real with you, some of it's a performance, you know, because people have to like me in order to buy from me, right? Even though by the way, I have no sales training, right? And I always call myself the worst salesperson in the world, which makes me the best salesperson in the world, right? Because I'm like, here's my prices, yes or no. Like, there's no haggling, it's just full transparency. And that really works for me, you know, in that way.
I get it. I mean, I remember and in like my training that they tell you that sometimes you have to be like super marketer or super reporter.
Yeah.
Like you have to put on the performance. And it is like you said earlier, like kind of fake it till you make it. And that can be good advice because it gets you into the mindset of being the person that the moment needs and being an effective communicator in that moment. So
Yeah, I'm doing some intense coaching right now. I've never been coached before. I never really did any continued education. You know, I just, when responsive design came out, I just said, okay, let's sell one and I'll figure it out when we build it. So that's sort of, I mean, which is weird because I'm not a big risk taker. I like certainty, and this is the only part of my business that isn't certain. But if I don't have good vibes on someone, I'm like, now we're not going to work together. Um, and if they keep coming to my boundary line, then I just know we're not a good fit. But ultimately, I can kind of turn it on and off. There are days where I'm like, guys, I can't do another meeting today. Please reschedule, and they understand that. And I love that I have a team that values my mental health as well as theirs.
in so many of these conversations about saying yes and having a yes story, so
Yeah.
many people mention setting boundaries and also being able to say no because you can't say yes to everything and have it not take a toll on you.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, I was mentoring for Score Delaware for a little bit, and then I realized, to be a real CEO for Brandswan, I had to kind of step back and really get the bird's eye view, pun intended, and see where I wanted to go. And this whole gamification part of the process, I'm really excited to build out. I don't entirely know what it looks like yet, but I'm really hoping everyone loves it. Clients anyway.
Can you tell me? I heard that Branswan, the name might be rooted in the Ugly Duckling story.
Yes,
Is that
yes.
true?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And me and Jen sometimes, Jen Wells, my co-founder, sometimes talk about it, because that's really where the brand swan came from. And she swears I came up with the name. Like, I think we're thinking like, oh, Black Swan and the Ugly Duckling, beautiful, brand swan, blah, blah, blah. So we ended up running with it one day. She just came in and she was like, let's create a company called Brand Swan. I'm like, that's genius. She's like, you came up with it. I'm like, I don't think I did, but let's go anyway. And I love that excitement. Oh, I miss that. But my team are so involved now that it just feels like I have a bunch of partners, in crime.
I think that's like that comes up in so many good stories where it's like no one can eat, like each partner credits the other person with like
Yeah.
how the name came about. No one can actually remember. That's beautiful.
Um,
And I love the element of transformation that's in it because I think that really relates to what you do in terms of, creating brand identities and design, just making something beautiful out of something that was there before.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. Gosh. Um, the interesting part is like when I'm working with my coach and brand messaging, and she leans in and she's like, do your clients associate themselves with the ugly duckling? And I'm like, no, they don't. They don't. And so what I've been doing is pulling the ugly duckling out of the brand narrative and inserting fairy tale. Because ultimately that's what it is. It's a fairy tale, and they always have a lesson, and of course a hero's journey. So because I don't think companies who are over 10 years old think of themselves as an ugly duckling. And so I think that concept, although I think people can relate to it if they're in that space, but someone who's looking to level up, I don't think they can affiliate themselves with that newbie fledgling of a bird. So I think I'm bringing in all the magic, all the stories, so that people can connect with it and just, like silly things like, okay, this person's super late filling out this questionnaire. Let's send them a GIF with a white rabbit with his watch. He's saying, I'm late, I'm really, really late, and be like, hey, can you send us the stuff we asked for, And then, just that interaction alone makes the process a little bit more enjoyable. And so those are the kind of things I really want to bring in. So
I'm going to remember that the next time something's running late. I love it. I
it's so
love all the
fun.
elements of the fairy tale and transformation. Okay, I want to switch gears to a little bit of
Oh yeah.
rapid fire this or that game. Hopefully, going to reveal a little bit about your brand personality.
I'm ready.
Okay, so branding and graphic design, this or that. Warm or cool?
Warm.
Monochromatic or complementary?
Complimentary.
Serif, sans serif, or script?
Script. A
Minimalist or
rebel.
mac? What's that?
I'm a rebel.
Rebel. I like a good third choice.
Yeah.
Minimalist or maximalist?
Minimalist.
Traditional or modern?
Modern.
Very nice. Okay, and now we're going to ask about you.
Okay.
If you had to change your first name, what would you change it to?
Oh my gosh. That is an interesting. Oh my gosh. There's been some like, oh my gosh. My parents almost called me Lindsay. I know that. I honestly don't know. I've been the only, which is so bizarre because I know this is supposed to be fast, but Jane's common, but yeah, I don't know that many people who are Jane. So I'm gonna keep my name. I would have to rebrand myself. This opens up so many.
Huge can of worms. Yeah, no, you
Yes.
do seem like a Jane to me.
Thank you. I think I'm a
Yeah.
Jane.
Aside from black, what is your favorite color?
Orange and green for sure. Yeah.
Have you ever written a song for someone?
Not a song, but a poem.
Okay. And then just bring it back to the clowns. What never fails to make you laugh?
Oh my gosh. Cat memes, like cat videos with like Tony Baker being like the voiceover. Um, and I've certainly brought my cat into the mix, and she's learned some things from Tony Baker.
Do you have a joke to share? I'm putting you on the spot here.
Oh, do I have a joke to share? Gosh. Um,
Is there like
you
a
know,
do you have a graphic design joke? Is there like a
I don't, but you know what I do have? A Therapet card, okay? Let's see what today's
what's
is.
this?
Oh, it's so beautiful. You are doing enough. It's gonna be okay. Cat Snuggleugin. Okay, so yeah, we do weird stuff like that here at Brand Swan. Like, oh, you're having a bad day? Let's read some Therapet cards. But the jokes, they tend to come in the moment for me.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And then just because we keep talking about games, board games or video games?
Oh my God, no, you didn't do that to me. Oh my God, video games.
Video games. Okay. Well, this
Oh,
is
yeah.
an appropriate roll into our final section, which is Chatbot Says. So we know that artificial intelligence is only as smart as the people using it. So, given your experience in graphic design and your love of games, we asked our AI friends for assistance in coming up with a signature Jane Clark character name and tagline for you.
Oh my God,
So,
tell me.
we're wondering which one of these you are most likely to pick. And hopefully, I can pronounce them all correctly.
Okay.
All right. Strategica Shadowheart. Join Jane Clark as she weaves your brand story into a tapestry of success. Penweaver, the Scrivener. Let Jane Clark turn your words into powerful prose, perhaps that poem. Pixel Pixie. Watch Jane Clark craft digital music. Actually, sorry, wait. Watch Jane Clark craft digital magic with a touch of pixie dust. The Bard of Branding. Listen in as Jane Clark sings your brand story to the world. And the insightful Oracle. Relax as Jane Clark sees beyond the surface into the soul of your brand.
Oh my God, wow. I play a lot of D&D and I love every single one of these. Probably the prose one. I'm actually in the middle of writing a book, a haiku book. Um, yeah, like the very first thing I gave my husband when we started dating was wrote him all these like tankas, which is like a little bit of a longer haiku. And I just sort of bound it. I had all these weird scarves I cut up and put fabric on it. Like it was a complete like scrapbook thing. And I gave it to him. I wrote all these haikus for him, and yeah, I'm that cheesy.
I love it. And you recently had a story of yours featured in a book, Great Dames.
I did, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
What does it mean to ignite someone's great dameness?
Um, you know, there was one event I went to, and it was fabulous, and the title was "I Quit." And I will get you this information, but this woman was incredible, and basically the entire concept was you decide to quit. If something isn't serving you, let it go, and I think that's really, really empowering. And so I just think, along the lines of saying no is okay, I think, you know, um, the Great Dames is certainly a more personal story, like when I was a younger, but I just want all young women to know that, if someone does something terrible to you and tries to embarrass you, we have AI now. Can't, don't worry about it. Just say it's AI.
I've heard that actually this just came up in another conversation. It's like whatever it is, it's AI.
Yeah, I mean, I find that if I can't control something, I try to just disengage from it completely, or it'll make you mad, right?
Mhm.
You can't change it, so just boop, go over here. I don't have to acknowledge you.
Any other closing pieces of advice to share to someone else who might be in a position where they have an opportunity to say yes to something, to take 4 planes across the US and make a presentation and eat a bunch of sushi?
So fun.
Go for it.
I would just say, don't sign the NDA. And you know what's so crazy about that is they're basically saying we're afraid to be associated with you. And so therefore you can't tell anyone you know what I mean? Like if we're starting that relationship without trust, I would have followed my gut probably and not done it. If it happened today, back then, I think I needed to go through this. I needed the journey. I needed the experience. I needed to know what I wanted. And I got it.
Yeah. Who are your favorite types of clients to work with now?
Nice clients. Clients who are kind and empathy driven and who want to tell a different story, who are change makers. Um, One of our clients is the ACLU of Delaware, so our views tend to be rather democratic, and we put out our ethos, and so we attract the kind of clients we want because we put it out there. So do the same thing. Find the commonalities of clients, your favorite clients, and then just go for those people, and don't be afraid to turn a client down.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Jane. This has been a lovely discussion.
My pleasure.
Yeah, that nice cat card makes me feel good.
I'm gonna buy you the deck, okay? So send me
do.
your address. I'm gonna get it for you.
Okay. If people would like to connect with you online, find out more about who you are, what you do, where can they find you?
LinkedIn is great, and somehow I actually got the URL Jane Clark. Can you imagine how many Jane Clarks there are? So LinkedIn's great. Go to my website, jane@brandswan.com. You can find me, connect with me directly there. So
okay, and of
see you
course,
guys around.
We're going to be having you at Social Media Day Delaware 2024. So
yeah,
thrilled to see you there.
I'm excited to be there. I'm looking forward to seeing all you people.
Okay, take care, Jane.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Yes Genius, a podcast from Epic Marketing. Join us again to hear more unique stories. In the meantime, find us on social media or online at epicmc2.com. You can also connect with Delaware's digital community at socialmediadayde.com. Don't miss out. Remember to follow or subscribe wherever you get your genius content.